Emma gripped the steering wheel as the late afternoon sun spread orange light across the quiet road. The hum of the car filled the silence, steady and constant, but her thoughts raced faster than the speedometer. Jacob sat in the back seat, humming to himself, his small voice rising and falling like a gentle tune. The drive should have felt ordinary, but today, everything felt heavier. She glanced at the road ahead, but her mind drifted elsewhere. For weeks now, her thoughts had been circling back to Daniel. He wasn't someone she had planned to think about this much. He had simply appeared years after she had learned to live on her own, carrying with him a calmness that unsettled her in the most tender way. They had met at a community fundraiser in Portland. At first, it had been small talk, polite smiles, and quick goodbyes. Then, one conversation stretched into two. And before she realized it, she was waiting for his messages. Her evenings brighter when his name appeared on her phone. Emma hadn't told anyone how her heart quickened when he came around. She hadn't admitted that she caught herself looking forward to the way his eyes seemed to linger on her, steady and kind, as though he had been waiting for years to finally meet her. She kept these feelings locked away, hidden even from herself, because moving forward was frightening. She had spent years raising Jacob alone, building a life where she could stand strong without depending on anyone. She didn't want to risk shaking the foundation she had worked so hard to create. The road curved gently. Emma shifted in her seat. Jacob leaned forward a little, tapping his fingers against his jacket zipper. He was always observant, always watching more than he spoke. Sometimes Emma wondered just how much her son noticed. How many of her unspoken feelings he could sense. "Mom," Jacob said suddenly, his voice breaking the rhythm of the drive. His tone was soft, almost secretive. Emma's grip tightened slightly on the wheel. "Yes, sweetheart?" she asked, her voice calm but curious. From the rearview mirror she caught a glimpse of his thoughtful expression. His eyes were wide and honest, the way only a child's eyes could be. He leaned closer, lowering his voice as though what he was about to say belonged only to them. "I think I know why you smile when Mr. Daniel comes around." The words landed with such precision that Emma almost missed the turn ahead. Her heart jumped into her throat and she steadied the wheel with both hands. She hadn't expected Jacob to notice, let alone speak it out loud. For a second, she considered laughing it off, brushing it away as a child's imagination. But Jacob's eyes in the mirror held no hint of teasing. He was serious. Emma took a breath, steady but shallow. "What do you mean?" she asked carefully, though her voice wavered. Jacob shrugged gently, fiddling with his zipper again. "You smile different when he's here. Not like when you see other people. It's the smile you used to have when Dad made you laugh." Emma's chest tightened at the mention of Jacob's father. It had been 5 years since he walked out, leaving her to gather up the pieces of their lives. She had never spoken badly about him in front of Jacob, never allowed bitterness to spill into her son's heart, but the absence had shaped them both. Hearing Jacob bring him up so openly now caught her off guard. She blinked hard, keeping her eyes fixed on the road. "Jacob," she began, her voice catching on the edges of his name. But Jacob wasn't finished. He leaned closer, whispering as though sharing something sacred. "It's okay, Mom. I like Mr. Daniel too. He listens to me, and he looks at you like you're the most important person in the world." Emma's throat tightened, and for a moment she could barely breathe. Her son's words were simple, but they carried a weight she couldn't ignore. He had seen straight through her walls, past all the quiet moments where she thought she had hidden her feelings. Well, his honesty left her raw, standing in the open with no shield to hide behind. She swallowed hard, blinking back the sting in her eyes. The hum of the car filled the silence again. But the weight of Jacob's words lingered between them, too powerful to be brushed away. Her heart raced with questions she wasn't ready to answer. How long had Jacob noticed? How much had he understood? And most of all, was it possible that her son's gentle truth was giving her permission to feel again? The road stretched ahead, endless and uncertain. Emma tightened her grip on the wheel, her mind whirling. She told herself to focus, to stay steady, but Jacob's voice kept echoing in her ears. "He looks at you like you're the most important person." Her heart thudded against her ribs. And in that quiet, suspended moment, Emma realized something she had avoided for too long. Maybe her son wasn't just noticing her feelings. Maybe he was telling her it was okay to have them, and that truth, whispered in the soft hum of a car ride, carried more power than Emma had ever expected. Emma's breath hitched the moment Jacob's words settled in the air. She tightened her grip on the wheel, her knuckles pale against the fading light. She tried to stay calm, but inside her heart thudded fast, uneven, as though it wanted to answer before her lips could form a single word. The quiet of the car grew heavier, every second stretching as if waiting for her to respond. "What do you mean, sweetheart?" she asked, forcing her voice to sound steady. But it wasn't steady at all. It trembled, carrying the weight of feelings she had never spoken. Jacob kept his eyes on the road ahead, his fingers nervously pulling at the zipper of his jacket. His small voice came again, low and thoughtful. "Because you like him, Mom. You like Mr. Daniel the way you used to like Dad." Emma's chest tightened, and for a moment she almost forgot to breathe. It wasn't just what Jacob said, it was how he said it. He wasn't teasing, wasn't playing a guessing game. He was telling her what he saw, what he felt, what he knew to be true. Children had a way of cutting through all the noise, of pointing to the heart of something without hesitation. And now, here in the middle of a quiet drive, her son had opened a door she had been afraid to even touch. Her eyes blurred, but she blinked quickly, keeping her gaze fixed on the road. She wanted to say something, anything. But the words clung to her throat. Jacob shifted in his seat, leaning forward slightly. His voice dropped to a whisper, almost like he was letting her in on a secret. "It's okay, Mom. I like Mr. Daniel too. He doesn't talk to me like I'm just a kid. He listens. He tells me things. He makes me laugh. And—" he paused, his voice softer now. "He looks at you like you're the most important person in the world." The car seemed to grow smaller, filled with the weight of what he had just revealed. Emma's eyes stung as she blinked rapidly, trying to keep the tears from spilling. Her son, only 8 years old, had said what she had never dared to think out loud. Daniel's kindness wasn't just something she felt, it was something Jacob noticed. Emma swallowed hard. "Jacob," she whispered, her voice trembling. "Why are you saying this?" He shrugged, his small shoulders lifting gently. "Because I want you to be happy. You don't laugh the same way anymore. Not like you used to. But when Mr. Daniel is around, you do. I see it, I hear it, and I like it." Her vision blurred again, but this time she let the tears fall quietly down her cheeks. Jacob's honesty was simple, pure, and impossible to ignore. She had worked so hard to protect him, to give him stability, to keep her heart guarded so nothing would shake their world again. But here he was, showing her that maybe, just maybe, he didn't need her to protect him from this. Maybe he was ready for something new too. For years, Emma had carried the memory of Jacob's father like a shadow. She remembered the laughter, the warmth, and the heartbreak that followed when everything fell apart. She thought she had hidden her pain well, covered it with routines, work, and late-night reading sessions after Jacob was asleep. But her son had seen through all of it. He had felt the spaces where laughter used to be. He had noticed the way silence weighed more than it should. And now, his quiet whisper felt like a permission slip. She didn't even know she was waiting for. The car rolled smoothly down the highway, trees flashing past in the last golden light of day. Emma blinked back her tears and forced a smile into her voice. "You're a very smart boy, Jacob." He grinned shyly, leaning back in his seat. "I just know what I see." Emma let out a shaky laugh, but her mind was still racing. The truth was clear now, painted by her son's words. She couldn't keep pretending Daniel didn't matter. She couldn't keep hiding from what her heart wanted. Jacob wasn't asking her to forget the past. He was simply asking her to open the door to the future. But even as the thought filled her, fear wrapped around her chest. Could she really take that step? Could she allow herself to love again? Not just for her sake, but for Jacob's too. What if it all fell apart again? The hum of the car carried them forward, the road stretching endlessly under the dimming sky. Yet, no matter how much she tried to push it aside, Jacob's words echoed louder than the sound. The engine? He looks at you like you're the most important person in the world. Those words weren't just a child's imagination. They were the truth she had tried to bury. Daniel's eyes had always carried something steady, something warm, something patient. He never rushed her, never pushed. He was simply there again and again, until his presence became a comfort she secretly craved. Emma exhaled slowly, her hands tightening on the wheel. For the first time she realized she wasn't the only one carrying this choice. Jacob had spoken, clear and honest, and his words carried a courage she didn't know she needed. The silence between them wasn't heavy anymore. It was filled with the soft glow of something new. Emma glanced in the mirror once more, meeting Jacob's calm/steady eyes. He smiled, small and certain, as if he already knew what she would decide. Emma turned her gaze back to the road, her heart beating fast. She didn't have all the answers yet, but she knew one thing with absolute clarity. Jacob had given her permission to feel again. And in that whisper of truth, something inside her began to change. That night, when the house was quiet and Jacob had drifted to sleep, Emma stepped out onto the porch. The air carried the sharp bite of autumn, cool against her skin, while the stars scattered themselves across the wide Oregon sky. She folded her arms around her sweater, seeking warmth, but the cold she felt came from inside. Jacob's words from the car still circled in her head, steady and unshakable. She had always thought she hid her feelings well. She believed she was careful, that no one, not even her son, could see how her heart changed when Daniel was near. But Jacob's honesty had left her exposed. The boy she thought needed protecting had, instead, protected her. His gentle truth had struck deeper than any advice from a friend ever could. Emma sat down on the wooden porch step, the wood creaking beneath her weight. Memories of Daniel came in quick flashes. His steady hands fixing the fence when she didn't even ask. His voice teaching Jacob how to throw a baseball, patient when mistakes happened. His laugh on a summer evening when she spilled coffee on herself. And the way he'd simply grabbed a towel, brushing off the moment with kindness instead of judgment. These weren't grand gestures, but they had stayed with her. Daniel had walked into the empty spaces of her life without forcing his way in. He was there when she needed him, without asking her to admit she did. And slowly, quietly, he had become part of her days. Emma looked out at the dark trees swaying under the night wind and wondered how long she had been fighting against herself. Was she afraid of losing control, or was she afraid of losing him? The thought made her chest ache. She pulled her phone from her pocket, her fingers brushing over the screen. Dozens of unread messages from community groups and emails sat untouched. But her eyes went straight to his name, Daniel. Just seeing it was enough to stir something inside her. Her thumb hovered. But before she could think, the phone buzzed in her hand. The vibration startled her, and when she glanced down, her breath caught. A new message glowed on the screen. "Daniel, did you make it home safe?" It was a simple question. Just 6 words. But those words carried something she couldn't ignore. It wasn't just about whether she arrived home, it was about whether she was okay. It was about him noticing her absence, thinking about her, caring enough to ask. Emma read the message again and again, her pulse quickening. For years she had been alone, answering only to herself, moving through days as if her heart was something that no longer needed tending. Yet here was Daniel, reminding her that someone could still care. She wanted to respond right away, to tell him she was safe, to thank him for asking, to admit how much it meant. But her fingers froze above the screen. If she wrote too quickly, would it show too much? If she kept it short, would it sound cold? Her heart beat fast, trapped between fear and longing. Finally, she typed back, "Yes, thank you. Jacob's asleep. We're okay." She hit send before she could second-guess herself. The message was short, safe, careful. Yet, deep down, she wanted to say more. She wanted to say she thought of him on the drive home, that Jacob talked about him, that she couldn't stop hearing her son's voice whispering, He looks at you like you're the most important person in the world." The phone stayed quiet, no reply coming back right away. Emma exhaled slowly, setting it on the porch rail. She leaned back against the post, staring at the night sky. Her mind wandered to the years after Jacob's father left. She remembered the silence in the house, the way she forced herself to smile so Jacob wouldn't see her break. She had sworn never to depend on anyone again, never to let someone close enough to leave her shattered. She became strong because she had no choice. And strength became her armor. But now she wondered if she had confused strength with loneliness. Daniel wasn't asking her to give up her independence. He wasn't demanding space in her life. He was simply there, waiting, steady, patient. Jacob had seen it. Jacob had felt it. And deep down, so had she. Her phone buzzed again. Her heart leaped as she reached for it. "Daniel, I'm glad. Rest well. You've had a long day." Emma smiled faintly, her chest warming with relief. The message was gentle, thoughtful, just like him. But beneath it, she could sense the quiet hope, the unspoken care. He didn't push, didn't ask more. But the kindness in his words lingered long after the screen dimmed. She closed her eyes, letting the night air wrap around her. Jacob's face appeared in her thoughts, his wide eyes, his small voice whispering truth. "It's okay, Mom. I like him too." That sentence felt like a door opening. For years, she had worried about what Jacob needed, how her choices would affect him. But now, he was the one telling her it was safe to step forward. He was ready. And maybe, just maybe, she was too. Emma stood, wrapping her sweater tighter around her shoulders. She walked back into the house, the floor creaking under her steps. In Jacob's room, the boy lay sound asleep, his chest rising and falling in steady rhythm. She leaned against the doorway, her eyes softening. How could someone so young carry wisdom so large? She brushed a strand of hair from his forehead, kissed him gently, and whispered, "Thank you." The house was quiet again as she moved to her own room. She set her phone on the nightstand, but her thoughts didn't slow. For the first time in years, her heart wasn't only carrying the weight of the past, it was carrying the possibility of a future. As she slipped under the covers, Emma stared at the ceiling, wide awake. She wasn't sure what tomorrow would bring, but she knew something had shifted tonight. The fear was still there, but it was softer, balanced by something stronger hope. And that hope, fragile as it was, felt like the beginning of something she could no longer deny. The next morning came with sharp sunlight cutting through the curtains. Emma rubbed her eyes, still carrying the weight of last night's thoughts. She moved quietly through the kitchen, making breakfast as the smell of toast filled the air. Jacob shuffled in, hair messy, eyes half closed from sleep. He sat at the table, chewing slowly, and then looked at her in that serious way he always did when he wanted to say something important as she poured him juice. He leaned closer and whispered, "Mom, don't wait too long. People who make you smile shouldn't be kept waiting." The glass almost slipped from her hand. His words, simple but strong, pierced her chest. She stared at him for a moment, unsure if he even realized how much power his little voice carried. Jacob had always been sharp, always seeing more than she wanted him to. She managed a small smile, touched his cheek gently, and said nothing more. But inside, something shifted again. The drive to school was filled with chatter about his homework, a story he wanted to write for class, and which of his friends was bringing cupcakes that day. Yet when he stepped out of the car, Jacob paused, looked back at her, and grinned. "Remember, Mom? Don't wait." Then he ran off, his backpack bouncing against his shoulders. Emma sat in the car for a long moment, gripping the wheel, staring at the school building. His words wouldn't leave her. She thought about Daniel again, his patience, his quiet strength, the way he seemed to understand without her needing to explain. She thought about how Jacob smiled when Daniel was around, how their little home felt brighter when he stopped by for the first time. She wondered if maybe Daniel wasn't just a part of her story. Maybe he was already part of Jacob's too. Her phone rested on the seat beside her. She picked it up, her thumb hovering above Daniel's name. For years she had avoided this moment, always convincing herself it was too soon, too dangerous, too uncertain. But Jacob's voice echoed again in her head. Don't wait too long. She took a deep breath and typed, maybe tonight. If you're free, would you like to go for a drive? Her finger hesitated over the send button. She thought of all the reasons to hold back, all the fears that had kept her from reaching out before. But then she remembered Jacob's whisper, soft but certain, telling her it was okay to feel again. With one final breath, she pressed send. The message was gone. No taking it back. Her heart pounded as she set the phone down, staring at the screen like it might reveal the future in an instant. Minutes passed. She tried to distract herself by driving away, focusing on errands, groceries, laundry. But her thoughts circled back again and again to whether he would reply. Finally, her phone buzzed. She pulled over, hands shaking as she lifted it. Daniel, a drive sounds perfect. Tell me when and where. Emma pressed her lips together, a smile breaking across her face before she could stop it. Relief, excitement, and fear all rushed through her at once. It was just a drive, something simple, but to her, it meant more than that. It meant opening a door she had kept closed for too long. That evening, after dinner, she told Jacob she had plans. His eyes lit up as if he already knew. With Mr. Daniel? He asked, his grin wide and playful. Emma laughed softly, brushing his hair back. Yes, with Mr. Daniel. Don't stay up too late, okay? He nodded quickly, hugging her tight. Don't worry, Mom. Have fun. When she stepped outside, Daniel's car was already waiting by the curb. The sight of him leaning against the door, hands tucked in his jacket, made her heart race in a way she hadn't felt in years. He straightened when he saw her, his eyes soft and warm. You look nervous, he said gently as she walked up. Maybe I am, she admitted with a small laugh. Don't be. It's just a drive, he replied, but his voice carried something deeper, something that told her he understood what this meant. They climbed into the car, the air thick with unspoken words. The city lights blurred as they drove, the hum of the tires filling the silence. For a while, neither spoke. Then Daniel glanced at her, his tone quiet. Jacob told me once that you're the strongest person he knows. I think he's right. But even strong people deserve someone to lean on. Emma's throat tightened. She stared out the window, blinking back tears. He told me something yesterday. Something I wasn't ready to hear. Daniel kept his eyes on the road. What did he say? She drew in a shaky breath. He said I smile differently when you're around. That I laugh like I used to. And that it's okay. Daniel's hands tightened briefly on the wheel, but his voice remained calm. He's a smart boy. Kema turned to look at him. The glow from the dashboard lit his profile, steady jaw, thoughtful eyes, the kind of quiet strength that made her feel safe. She realized then that Jacob wasn't wrong. He really did look at her as if she was the most important person in the world. Her chest rose and fell quickly as she whispered, I'm tired of being afraid, Daniel. For a moment, the car was silent except for the hum of the road. Then he reached across, his hand brushing gently against hers. Then don't be. Not with me. Her fingers tightened around his, and for the first time in years, Emma allowed herself to exhale fully, as if releasing the weight she had carried for so long. The road stretched ahead, wide and open, and though she didn't know where it would lead, she felt ready. That night wasn't filled with grand declarations or promises. It was just a drive to people side by side, the future unfolding mile by mile. But to Emma, it was everything she thought of Jacob. Of his whispered truth, of the way he had given her permission to move forward. And as the car carried them through the quiet streets, Kema realized her son had given her the greatest gift of all, the courage to begin again.